the damage that has been done in a human being can span years.
Mm-hmm.
When we go for therapy, people expect, oh, when you go for 2, 3 years, 4 years, better have healed. No, if you have trauma that is there from when you were an infant,
Yeah.
and doing that trauma might take the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I find myself, I'm not fun. Even though they come and we talk, there's still spaces where they feel mommy is just being stiff. Mommy is not giving way. Mommy is not opening herself. She's not laying herself completely. They have tried. We've had candid talks, but I still guard myself a lot.
We are live here in sunny New Jersey. Today is a sunny day. It's about 70, I think 72 degrees. And today I'm so delighted to be here with Anne Kagwe. I
Yeah.
met Anne Kagwe many years ago. She's been a friend. And one of the reasons why I like Anne is because she is such an open person, an open book. She tells you as it is. She
Mhm.
tells you even things that other people wouldn't tell you. And I feel that she's a very, very sincere person. And she's taught me a lot about emotional vulnerability. So, what is emotional vulnerability? It is the willingness and ability to address and articulate our emotions, no matter how uncomfortable they are. Usually, as human beings, we are very willing to express our comfortable emotions like happy, excited. But then, when we are feeling angry or we are feeling disappointed or depressed, we tend to hide our emotions. But Anne is one person who is very vulnerable. She's open with her emotions, and that's why I thought she was the best candidate to talk to us about emotional vulnerability. And Anne is a beautiful woman. She's a nurse. She's a mother, a friend, and she's also a Christian, right, Anne? So I
Oh,
wanted us,
yes.
yeah, yes, I wanted us to start with Anne telling us one thing that we don't know about you. One thing that I don't know about you that we don't know about you that would surprise us about you.
Oh, wow. I'm such an open book. I don't even know if there's something that would surprise you all about me.
It can be something you did in childhood or a hobby you have that we don't know because you haven't practiced for a long time.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I'm scared of heights.
Height.
Scared of
Oh, okay.
I'm
Okay.
scared of heights. Yeah, I'm scared.
Okay. Okay. So when you go to Great Adventure, you don't go on the
No,
ride with your kids.
everybody else can go. I'm not going.
Okay. Okay. So you're the bug lady at Great Adventure.
Oh yes, I'm the one who's rooting for you and coming there when you're sweating and when, if you've thrown up when you are on the ride and you are, I'm the one who is wiping.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Anne, I wanted us to talk about emotional vulnerability. And as I said, the reason why I thought it's good to talk to you about it is because you're a very open person. You talk about your emotions and you don't have the fear, or maybe even if you have the fear, you conquer your fear and you talk about your emotions, which
Mm,
is a very important thing because when we are emotionally vulnerable, it helps us heal. It helps us get
mm,
our emotions out and deal and process our emotions. So, but before we start talking about, we're going to talk about emotional vulnerability in the different stages of your life. So, let's start
mm,
at childhood, right?
mm,
Most of us, I know that you grew up in Kenya.
mhm.
What can you be vulnerable about your childhood? How can you tell us when you think about your childhood, especially now in hindsight as a grown up? What are some of the things that come up for you emotion wise?
Oh, emotionally. As a
Mm-hmm.
child, I grew up with parents who loved us, but for me, I think they weren't there for us because they were so busy chasing the bag, as they say in America. They
Mm-hmm.
were so busy making the money, and I think for me, I missed that big part of having my mom and dad. Dad was too strict. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you could not relate with him. We always our my remembering of my father is seeing this strict man who just wanted us to score good grades. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And and then comparing us to other kids who were doing well and we weren't doing well and stuff like that. Then I see my mom so busy being one of the greatest nurses that I've ever met, but then not having time for her children, not having time to hear us. And the way I personally perceive God working is
Mm-hmm.
He provided for us a nanny called Wangeshi.
Mm-hmm.
Wangeshi came to our house in 1969 and she
Mm-hmm.
left in 2001. And she provided the emotional peace for us, at least for me, our firstborn sister, and our thirdborn sister,
Mm-hmm.
because she was there to wipe away our tears. I remember myself just feeling so alone, like, and I used to have, dad was so good at buying us gifts when we did well, when we excelled. And I excelled a lot because I wanted gifts. And he
Mm-hmm.
would ask me, what do you want? And I loved to read. So I was bought for Famous Five,
Mm-hmm.
Secret Seven, all those books, you know, Little Women, all those books. I used to eat books. I used to love books. But then I was lonely. I was
Mm.
that lonely kid who would go at a corner to just stay with my books, to stay with my by myself
Mm.
because nobody understood me. I felt misunderstood. I
Mm-hmm.
felt I felt like my sisters were able to bond with one another and I
Mm-hmm.
was not able to bond with them because I always felt that nobody knew me, nobody could understand me. So
Mm-hmm.
I loved my alone time. I loved being
Mm.
alone, doing my own thing. Then my dad one day gifted me with a doll called Lily.
Mm.
She was a walkie-talkie doll. She was really tall and she used to walk and she used to talk and she's the one I used to talk to. I used to talk to my doll. I used to feed my doll. She was my emotional support. I
Okay.
started talking to inanimate objects from when I was a kid because
Okay.
I wanted to feel heard, but I did not see that with my parents.
Okay.
So that's what I can remember.
Mm-hmm. And where are you in your birth order? Are you the third born?
I'm the second born.
Oh, you're the second born. Okay. So
Yeah.
you're saying that your firstborn sister and your third born sister got along well or spent a lot of
Yes,
time?
I
Okay.
could see them like washing dishes together in the kitchen. They
Mm-hmm.
were fighting with paddles but I wanted to go to that kitchen, finish my work, go in the living room, watch the soaps that were there,
Mm-hmm.
and I just did not feel seen or heard.
Mm.
And it may not be that I was not seen or heard, but
Mm-hmm.
Nili, I was a child who liked kujitenga, to kind of
Isolate
remove.
yourself.
Yes, I was that kind of child who liked to isolate. It got me into trouble, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
trouble at the time, but I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to isolate myself because I did not feel like. And yet, when I was a little kid, I remember my dad couldn't understand me because nilikuwa I was a mutukutu. You know these children who are
Mischievous.
know it all. You know everything. You are the one who is here, you're the one who is causing messes, you are the one who is nobody understood me. I felt
Mm-hmm.
misunderstood.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you feel that you got good grades because you wanted to please your dad so that your dad could give you the gifts?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
that was one of the greatest. And also, I was an intelligent kid. On
Mm-hmm.
top of that, I'm intuitive and I'm intelligent. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the primary reason is because I wanted to get the gifts. I wanted to get those gifts which could only be acquired if I excelled in school.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, and that is something that is pretty common. And especially if you say that your dad as loving and as he was a provider, but he wasn't there. So that was also a way of you to feel seen, or to know that your dad still loves you because he's giving you the gift. And that's
Yes.
what we call, it's performance. You're performing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're hoping that the performance is going to get you something, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
a gift. Yes, the gift is a material thing, but then the moment you're given the gift, the moment you're talking to your dad and telling your dad what you want as a gift, you're
Mm-hmm.
getting that interaction that you're really learning and yearning for. Okay,
Yes.
so now that was Anne as a child. How
Mm.
did that affect you as a young adult?
Well, as a young adult,
Mhm.
um, the biggest problem which I carried from being a child to being a young adult was my weight.
Okay.
I was always I was always plus size. I was always big boned. In Kenya, there is a stark difference between being fat, because that's what they call you. They called me Fat Ann,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh.
being like a normal size person.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to high school, I if they had two Anns in the class, I was always Fat Ann and the other
Oh.
was Ann. So that really affected my self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, even in when I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
I went on a weight loss journey whereby I refused to eat so that I could lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
Refusing to eat, I'm not going to eat anything. And by the time the nuns, because I was in a nun school, by the time the nuns realized Aunt Kagwe is really sick, the only way, can you imagine, that they could gauge that Aunt Kagwe was sick was by taking me to the convent so that I could eat their food. And when they saw that Aunt Kagwe could not even eat the convent food, then they call my mom and they tell her, hello, Aunt Kagwe is really, really sick. She cannot eat convent food.
Mm.
So that made my mom now come for me, and I had already developed ulcers.
Okay.
And when my dad saw me, he was really angry because my dad has always been a big man. He was
Mm.
really angry and he was like, look at you, you should be ashamed of yourself. I've been a big man and I'm a lawyer. It does not matter. Your size does not matter. You should love yourself just the way you are. I have excelled in this Kenya. I'm the the best lawyer that there is. And they took me to the hospital, and he told my mom, take her to the hospital, let her go and see those people who don't eat. Let her go and see how they are. So I was taken to the hospital, and I was taken to see people who are malnutritioned,
Mm-hmm.
people who are not eaten, so that I could see what I would look like, people who are anorexic, people who had
Mm-hmm.
suffered from eating disorders. I was
Mm-hmm.
taken to see them so that I could see how I would be because of hanging on there and refusing to eat. And
Okay.
then they had to start feeding me with fast porridge. They started with
Mm-hmm.
porridge because my intestines was, I would feel pain, so much pain. Then when
Mm.
I went to school, trying to adjust in this non-school where we were not allowed to carry food, I was still being abused there. At that time, there was UHT milk. When
Mm-hmm.
I go to get my UHT milk, it was a problem, and I'm taking my lunch and stuff like that. So I had to leave that school, and go to a school that could be able to be more tolerant about my problem, my ulcers and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
the way I wanted to isolate myself, it was still there even when I grew up, when I was in high school, because I'm still there isolating myself, refusing to go to the gym. When people are going to play PE and Kagwe is refusing, she's staying in the class. I remember seeing myself with two gym teachers, one on this side, the other one on this side, dragging me to go to that field because I didn't want to go to the field. I was feeling I was fat. I could not run. I could not get involved with the sports that they were doing. My mother, when I was going there, told her I don't want the uniform that they are wearing. She had to make for me a dress. So I'm wearing a full dress to go to the gym. And and every time I went there, I just wanted to isolate myself. So this thing of isolation as a child, it follows me even as a young adult, that I want to isolate myself and do things differently. I'm the only
Okay.
one in our family, even though my mom did not, she talked really bad about smoking and stuff. I'm the only one, I believe, who has ever smoked. I smoked for about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that made me stop was because my mother asked me, would you like me to take you to Smoking Anonymous?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that she had asked me in such a bad way, instead of throwing jabs at me and telling me how I was smoking, how nimekuwa malaya, a prostitute, and stuff like that. So I felt at least she asked me such that I stopped. That made me stop. But I remember isolating myself, sitting at Wimpy, drawing, with my cigarette and stuff like that. That was heaven for me.
Mm. So
Following me.
because your mom showed some compassion and did
Yes.
not ask you in a rude or mean way,
Mhm.
that was what you needed. You did mention
Mhm.
something. You mentioned that you were being abused. Okay, so you go back
Mhm.
to boarding school, which was a Catholic school with nuns, and
Mhm.
your diet is kind of, you're having a hard time with the food because you are not eating for a long time, so your digestive tract is kind of uh, messed up,
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And so you say that you're being abused. What do you mean by you're being abused?
Okay. What I mean by that is that
Mhm.
so I was scheduled to go and drink the UHT milk
Mhm.
because we were not allowed to carry food in the school. I was scheduled to go and drink it at a certain time
Okay.
in the principal's office, and she was a nun. So when I go there, she
Uh-huh.
tells me, "Oh, you girl from Nairobi, all you know how to do is to pretend." It used to hurt me so bad because I'm going there because that is what the doctor's instructions are for
Mhm.
me so that I can get better. But then
Mhm.
I get there, and then she uses that as a thing to tell me, you see, you are still fat. You are still fat. You are, you don't need to drink
Oh.
the milk. You are still fat. And then she will not even give me the milk, or even when I'm getting the milk, she has put me down so much that
Mm.
even I'm drinking. So I continued writing. I used to write to my mom letters, and I used to tell her, I want to leave. Please get me out of here.
Mhm.
And I think just the mere persistence of me writing to her, telling her, look, I'm having trouble even drinking my milk, and da, 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 da. That's what made her feel that I should leave. Because when they had taken us to that faraway school with the nuns and everything, it was a way of thinking, oh, let these children go here so that they can get some form of discipline. You know,
Mhm.
because we have brought them up in Nairobi, they are so used to the lifestyle in Nairobi. Let's take them out here so that they can see how people struggle and how people, have to survive in with nuns, and let them be. Because I was still naughty, even though I'm still a naughty child.
Okay. So how long did you not eat before they called your parents?
I think it must have been, by the time I could not eat, it must have been about almost a month.
A
Almost a
month.
month. But it
Okay.
started very gradually. I'm going to the lunchroom, I'm looking at the food, I'm thinking about the name calling and everything, and I'm like, no, I don't want to eat. So I decided I'm not going to eat.
Mhm.
It must have been about a month when then they saw this girl is eating, and then
Mhm.
they took me to the convent, and they offered me their food, and they were like, nah, nah,
Okay.
there's a problem,
So
there's a big
so
problem.
you didn't have to reveal it to them. They observed that you are not eating.
Did observe, but
Okay,
yeah,
I get
they
you.
observed that I was not eating.
Okay. Would you say that because you felt isolated and you felt like you could not connect with other people emotionally, or that nobody understood you, that you used food as your comfort? Would you say that?
I don't know. I think I was just boned. Food was not my comfort because I never overate. But
Okay.
everything I ate always ended up going to wherever it was supposed to be going. It always
Okay.
ended up going wherever, whether it was in the boobs, whether it was in the thighs, whether it was in the stomach.
Okay. Okay. So you are not using food as a drug of choice, because
No,
that is
no.
something that a lot of us use when you're upset. You go for the chocolate, the ice cream, the
Yeah.
carbohydrates.
Mm.
Okay.
I
Okay.
didn't like sweet things now. It's not that I did not like sweet things. I remember even when we were when we were young, my sisters would tell me, go and tell mom we want ice cream. I was the only one who would be able to sweet talk my mom to buy ice cream for us. So
Okay.
I liked sweet things, but it was not like an overindulgence. It was like I was able to get what I wanted because I knew how to sweet talk my mom to get what we
What
liked.
you
We
wanted.
wanted. Yeah.
Okay, so now we've talked about your high school years. Now let's
Yes.
go into your young adult. So we talked about your teenage years. Now
Yes.
let's go to your young adult life.
Mhm.
So now you're out of high school, maybe you're going to college. Now this is the time that we start dating. We
Yes.
start noticing members of the opposite sex.
Uh-huh.
How did that go for you? How was your young adult life in college, dating, and the like? How was that for you?
Uh-huh. So my first kiss was horrible. I got my first kiss when I was 19. It was
Okay.
terrible. You know,
Okay.
I had we had never been exposed. We had been brought up very sheltered. So
Mm-hmm.
I went to a fashion college,
Okay.
and there was a curio shop like
Mm-hmm.
next door, and the young man, the son of the guy, the owner there, he's the one who gave me my first kiss. It was a horrible experience. But the other thing that I realized with me as I was growing up is I wanted to fit in. Remember, I'd always wanted to isolate myself. So this is the time now I'm going to get involved in smoking, in finding out about alcohol. I had drunk a little bit when I was young, when I was a teenager. But
Okay.
that was just, what can I say? It was drinking in the house because the alcohol was there. So I would take a little sip and just mix it with Sprite, just wanting to be like an adult. It
Mm-hmm.
was nothing. And it was very little so that I could pour the rest of the pilsner. My dad would never have noticed missing one pilsner, in
Mm-hmm.
his plates of pilsner. So I would pour the rest in the sink. And because I had so much alone time, so I was able to do a lot of things that my siblings I couldn't have done because they were always together, but I was alone. So I'm still doing the things that I'm not supposed to do. So dating, it was an interesting experience. But one of the things is I was very sensitive. I've always been very sensitive
Mm-hmm.
about guys talking about my weight. It was
Mm-hmm.
always a sore spot. So what
Mm-hmm.
ended up happening is that the ones who dated me were not usually my age mates.
They were
They
older
were
or younger?
usually they were older,
Okay.
older because they were more understanding, um according to what I felt in terms of
Mm-hmm.
my age and my size and stuff like that. I
Mm-hmm.
did date a younger man in my early 20s who I've always said was the only boyfriend that I ever had. He's the only guy that I ever loved because he understood me in totality. It
Mm.
was important for me. I never kept long relations. That is something I never was able to keep. Long relations with friends, ladies, or men. It was always short. And whenever I felt the need to, this is getting too deep, I don't understand it. I was never that kind of person who will go in and find out what is going on and kind of want to fix things. Every time I felt something about the heart, about my past was being touched, then I would jump out.
So you
But
were
this
not emotionally vulnerable at
no,
that time. Okay.
no. But this particular guy,
Mm-hmm.
if it were not for the fact that his brother had sent him to the States, this particular guy won my heart. It was like mush. My heart was completely mush. It was finished. I was like putty. That
Mm-hmm.
is the only person that I have ever in my mind, if I can think about it, apart from, of course, my children and my parents and stuff like that, who has ever known how to handle this girl who felt misunderstood, who
Okay.
was always a misfit. He's
Mm-hmm.
the only person who knew how to handle me and knew what to do with me. So
Mm-hmm.
that particular guy, everybody else was just taking what they wanted from me, whether it was a fact that we are going out for a date, whether it's, if I'll be candid enough to say whether it was just sex, whether it was, they were taking all those things, but they left me always unfulfilled. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
I
yes, I
was
get.
always left empty. I
Mm-hmm.
always knew there was nothing with longevity. But this particular dude, oh, he had me hook, line, and sinker. Everything.
Okay,
Yeah.
but do you see the connection between you being isolated and feeling unheard and feeling like although your parents provided, they were not there for you emotionally? Do you see the connection between that and you having the fear of going deep with anyone
Yes.
and cutting your relationships short so
Yeah.
that you don't get too deep, because then you don't know what it is to get deep. You don't know what it
Yeah.
is to be vulnerable at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so you're a young adult, then you get married, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about marriage
Yeah.
and how you think your childhood, um, you know, as a therapist, I know for a fact that our childhood affects a lot, how we end up carrying ourselves emotionally, especially emotional. It affects our emotional intelligence and how we end up relating to people, maybe
Mm.
sometimes even the career choices we make,
Mm.
how our personalities, it affects a lot, right?
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So as a young woman, now you decide you want to get married, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Can you give me the connection between your childhood, being called fat, being misunderstood, being isolated, feeling like there was no one who got you and who was there for you emotionally? How did that affect your choice in marriage, and even in your marriage? How did that show up in your marriage?
Okay. So I will backtrack and say that,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, this particular guy was the only one who knew me. So
Mm-hmm.
let me just say, I think I was able to, I was never able to let go of him, even when I was getting married.
Okay.
I carried him into my marriage.
Okay.
I could always see him. I could always feel the way he took care of me, the way he loved me. Now,
Mm.
when
Mm-hmm.
I met my ex, he was doing very well in Nairobi. He had
Mm-hmm.
a very he was struggling, but he's always been a very, very, very hardworking man. So
Mm-hmm.
he's in Kikuyu we say "Ni mwonjorithia." He knows how to, he knows how to make the buck. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. He's a
So when I
go-getter.
met him, yes, when I met him, first of all, I met him living with his sister,
Mm-hmm.
and she had spoiled him. Look, I've been raised with a cook and a maid, so I don't even know how to cook. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to cook. So I go there, and this is a man who is used to being done for everything by his sister. Everything, nuts and bolts. Then I go there. I think the most important meal that I could make for him was ugali, sukuma wiki, and milk. That's it. So
Sukuma
when
wiki, for those who don't know, is collard greens. Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
so when I meet this man, he is so spoiled. I come on. I'm a young person. I'm living alone. He meets me. Then we break up because I can't understand him. We have met, we break up. Then we meet again. Then I get pregnant. Now, when I get pregnant, that's where the problem starts because I tell my dad, "You're telling me that I should get married to this man and that this man does not even love me. He doesn't even love me. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't." My father asks me how. I say, because even when he comes from having a drink and he finds me angry, he'll go back to the bar and come
Mm-hmm.
back and go back and come back whenever. So my dad gave me a list. He asked me several questions.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "I want to ask you some questions and I want to hear how you're going to answer them. And when you answer them, then I will tell you whether he's the right person for you or not." Some of these questions were, "Is he hardworking?" I said, "Well, yeah, I see him waking up every day. He goes to work.
Mm-hmm.
Does he pay his rent? I said, Dad, how would I know? I found him living here with his sister. And have you ever seen them kicked out? No. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
man who pays his rent. He's a
Okay.
responsible man.
So he's hardworking and he pays his rent. Okay.
He pays his rent. Does he love his parents? Dad, I don't know. When you hear him speaking about his mother, how does he speak about his mother? Oh, with a lot of respect. Aha! Now that man who loves his mother will always love you. Everything, every question he asked, and I answered. He said, people may not love one another initially, but a man can grow to love a woman. You are not going to be a child out of wedlock. Now, for me, I had seen that there was no alignment in terms of, there was no connection
Mm-hmm.
because my ex did not love me. And when I made mistakes, he did not have, he did not know how not to forgive my mistakes. I'm young, I'm
Mm-hmm.
naive. He doesn't know how not to forgive my mistakes because I believed that the guy that I carried with me into my marriage,
Mm-hmm.
he knew how to forgive my mistakes. When
Okay.
I erred, he knew how to forgive me. So I'm telling you, that man, I carried him into my marriage and he took me all the way. I was able to release him when after I was divorced. You can imagine.
Oh
Because he
wow.
was always in my thoughts. I was always making that comparison. I was
Mm.
always making those comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
And now it was so difficult because my ex had been brought up in a certain way. I've been brought up in a certain way. I'm like what they call Barbies, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'm
Spoiled.
going to the village and stuff, spoiled
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
You have a cook, you have a maid.
Yes,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yes. And I still, he was very connected in a different way. The connection that he was connected with his family was different from the way I am connected with my family. They used to do things together. They used to go for Christmas together. I I find it hard going to the village to go and adjust myself to try. And so I did. I went through the emotions of being married just because of fulfilling what my parents wanted me to do, because of societal expectations, because we had children together, not because of love, not because there was a strong connection, not because of all those things. And unfortunately, those are the things that make marriage work, that there is a connection there. You're friends, you can talk, you can forgive one another, you can do these things. There was that foundation was not there from the jump. It was not there.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that is what went on in our marriage. And what started breaking in the beginning continued to break as we continued. There was nothing that was going to hold it together. And all we did just go through the motions of getting children, taking care of the children, being together, being seen by society, being together. And everybody would say, oh, the marriage is beautiful because we respected one another,
Mm-hmm.
respected one another, and we didn't want to rock the boat that much.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so my isolation also plays in my marriage because there were moments that I wanted to be alone.
Okay.
I could see myself being alone. I could see, like we are talking, and I wanted those alone times. I wanted times when I was alone, when I could do things alone. And there was a lot of things that were not coming together. But
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them now afterwards. But at that time, I would not have been
Mm-hmm.
knowledgeable to know about them.
Mm-hmm. So, would you say that your self-esteem also had something to do with this? Because you've been called fat, you feel like you're the odd one out, and now you're pregnant and you feel like you have to marry this person. Do you feel that if you had a higher or a healthier self-esteem, you'd have been able to say, you know what, he provides, he's hardworking, but no, I cannot go into this and make this a marriage?
I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
um, obedience of my parents
Mm-hmm.
is so important that it did not matter how I felt. It did not matter.
Performance. That's performance still.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
the other thing is when I met my ex, he never honed in on my weight. So that was one of the reasons that I said, I think we can still manage, because he never honed in on my weight. But
Okay. Mm-hmm.
after I got Wairimo, I gained a lot of weight.
Okay. After you got your first child. Okay.
After I got my first child, I gained a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
Now he started talking about it. He started
Okay.
saying it. You have gained a lot of weight. When are you going to lose it? That started affecting me again. My mother, because she knows me so well, she saw how affected I was, because I was being told that I have grown fat. And she knew she had to do something about it. My mother has always been a fixer. She's
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to fix. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
how, she's going to fix. So I told her, I don't know what to do, but I was crying. I was depressed. And she found out about this program called, I will remember it. It's it had come. It was a very expensive program. It cost 9,000 Kenya shillings. Nine
It
thousand.
was, I think I know what it was. They used to wear badges saying lose weight now, ask me how, or something like
No,
that.
no, no.
Okay.
I don't know. It was an American program that had come. It was a very expensive program, but
Okay.
because my mom didn't want me to suffer from depression, she knows her daughter has suffered from ulcers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But she's a fixer, so she gets me this program, and I start losing weight, and I start
Oh,
lovely.
okay.
Now, what
Mm-hmm.
happens? You start losing weight and you start looking lovely. He took me to the store and started buying for big clothes. And of course, the game continued. We're husband and wife now.
Mm-hmm.
So my second born daughter is born.
Mm-hmm.
Is I get pregnant with my second born daughter. But now I am angry. I'm angry. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
angry because my losing weight has made me get pregnant with my second born daughter. It's not,
Okay.
it has caused, I'm losing weight. I feel good about it. But then now I'm pregnant with my second born daughter. So
Mm-hmm.
throughout that pregnancy, I was angry. I was disappointed. And my ex could see it. And
Mm.
when I gave birth to my second born daughter, because there is a very big difference, maybe we'll talk about the children later, but he knew my behavior towards Wairimu, my firstborn daughter, and my second born daughter, totally different. Totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And the weight, fat, it everything centered around there. Self-esteem, every time somebody talked about it, inashuka chini, it goes down. I go on defense mode. I go on
Mm-hmm.
defense. I look all right on the outside, but inside I'm wounded,
Mm.
completely wounded. And I don't know how to deal with these two disparities.
Okay.
Yeah, I continue trying to lose weight different ways, but never made it. Never
Mm-hmm.
made it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
yes. So, okay, you said that, you mentioned that, you don't know if you're going to talk about children. That was the next thing I was going to talk to you
yeah,
about. So let's
yeah,
talk about your childhood, and the wounded inner child, which is what you are, or the traumatized inner child,
mhm,
now has gone through high school, being wounded and wounded over and over, right? Now, as a young adult, the same thing is happening. Now you've married someone that you really didn't feel a connection with. Now you've had your first child, and now because now you're pregnant with your second child, and
mhm,
of course you're not happy about it. And unfortunately or unfortunately, but it's a fact that our children feel our emotions in
in you,
utero, you
in
know?
you, raw, yeah,
So you might find that even this child, the way this child relates to you is different because they did not feel the love, because we cannot hide our emotions. It's just so it's like a wonderful thing,
yes,
but then on the other hand, if it's not the right thing, then it's not good, right? But so
yeah.
now, how does your childhood which you have carried into your teenage years, which is part of your childhood, into your young adulthood, into your marriage, into your adulthood, pretty much, and into your marriage, how does that affect Anne as a mother?
Mm. Huh? Mm. Mm. And as a mother,
Mm-hmm.
with my first two, um, I see myself as um because I'm not receiving the love and the attention
Mm-hmm.
from my ex. This I'm very good at making sure my children are well dressed, they are fed. But there's anger and there's bitterness, and in Kenya, it was easier to use methods that are not allowed here. Kuchapa watoto,
Spanking. Mm-hmm.
beating children and stuff like that. It was easier. But I knew because I was not being fed that attention, that love, I used to beat. I used to beat. Okay. And
Spank,
then I
like.
would,
Mhm.
yes, I would spank. And I would
When you
blame.
say beat here, by the way, here people think of like you going to the club, like it's beat is very big here. So you mean
Sorry,
spank? Yes, yes.
spanking.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do it when we were in Kenya. Then I came back, the habit was still here, still looking for that attention.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm taking care of I'm I'm angry. I'm angry when they make mistakes. I'm not kind in terms of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm teaching them angrily with a lot of anger and not seeing, they're not understanding. And there's such a disconnect. I
Mm-hmm.
love my children, but then it's very easy for me
Mm-hmm.
to even isolate myself from them and from the emotions that they have. I remember there were times that we have had discussions with the kids, and they are like, Mom, can you see how isolated you are from the true emotions that we are feeling?
Mm.
Sometimes they feel that I'm supposed to be more empathetic, and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, which is later. That is when we were in Kenya. That I will do things, make sure, mind you, make sure in Kenya, Wairimu and Shiro, they have the best nannies. Make sure that those nannies are emotionally connected with them because I don't have that emotional connection with them. But
But
make
do you
sure
see
these
that? Do
nannies,
you see that as a pattern repeating itself?
yes, that's what it is. Make
Yes.
sure that they have very good nannies who are taking care of them because I can't. I don't have that emotional connection with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to look for it. I used to get rid of nannies. No, because you are hardworking, you are cleaning the house well, you are cooking well. But if you don't have an emotional connection with my kids, I don't care if you're messy. I don't care if you don't cook that good. That's okay. But if you don't have an emotional connection with my children, then I'm going to get rid of you. That's in Kenya. Then
Mm-hmm.
we come here. Now here is a totally different place altogether because you are everything. Here, the spanking continues. You know, when I get angry from this other end, then I bring it on this. But I find that when I go out to my cases, all the love that I'm supposed to be giving my children, I'm going and dishing it out to the people that I'm taking care of. They
Mm.
receive all my love. They receive everything. They receive all those hugs. They receive all those kisses. That's what I'm doing. When I go to my cases, those are because it's like they are not going to hurt me. They're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But when I get home, this is supposed to be my safe haven.
Mm-hmm.
And these people who I love and I'm sweating for and I'm getting angry and I'm not being treated properly for, they're going to hurt me. So I'm just going to emotionally disconnect myself from them so that they don't hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hurt me. Even here, I remember there was one lady, she comes to watch my life. I love her very much. She had such an emotional connection with Barack. Very nice emotional connection.
Your
At
son, your
one
last
point,
born child.
yes, my last
Mm-hmm.
one son. At one point, somebody stopped and asked me, you know what? This woman loves your son so much. Are you afraid that she is going to take away the love that you're supposed to be giving to your son? Because she loves him so much and he was so attached to her. And I remember myself responding and telling her, no, that's not a problem for me because I know her period here is not that long. Let him get all the emotional attachment or connection that he needs from her because I cannot be able to give it to him.
Mm-hmm.
So here I see myself like taking care of the kids during the time that I was having strife. When I
Mm-hmm.
was having strife, I would disconnect myself from my children. The time when I was expectant, when I was expectant when my son, I was going through so much in my marriage. It was so painful that I remember holding this child, holding, no, after I think I had given birth, but I remember standing in church, breastfeeding him and just crying, you know. And even when he was in utero, I was not a happy camper. I
Mm-hmm.
was not a happy camper. The two children that are so happy and are so emotionally connected are my firstborn and my thirdborn. In utero, these two children received the cream of their mother. When I was pregnant with my firstborn, I was so excited about her coming into this world. I loved her so much. With my thirdborn, I had waited and begged and said, now it was time for me to give birth to another child. And I had waited so much that when she came, when I was pregnant with, I was so excited. With my second born, I'm here struggling with my weight, and then I get
Mm-hmm.
pregnant. With my fourth born, I'm expectant, and this child was not wanted. So
Mm-hmm.
these, there are two, I have four children. Two of them so loving. They are so emotionally connected, but the
Mm-hmm.
other two are emotionally disconnected.
Disconnected. Mm-hmm.
Disconnected. And it works for me because I see myself in them.
Mm-hmm.
I see myself in them. So when
Mm-hmm.
they behave the way they do, I kind of understand them because I see my emotional disconnection and I can see I have empathy towards them and the way they be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if
Wow.
sometimes I go off on a tangent.
No, it's okay. Thank you so much because you're being very, very open and very vulnerable. And the truth is, this is what goes on in many families, So thank you so much for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
So now I'm just wondering. So now you have identified that you're disconnected, and this child started from childhood,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Have you had a conversation with your parents and talked about how they were there for you materially, but not there for you emotionally, and how even you've ended up now finding nannies because it's the nanny who provided that emotional support for you. Now, like in your mind, even though you knew that it's your parents who are supposed to provide that emotional support, history has an odd way of we do what we know, right?
Correct.
What you
Correct.
knew was the nanny was your emotional support, and it gave you a good emotional support. So you thought this should be the case for my children. Have you
Correct.
had a candid conversation with your parents and talked about the lack of emotional connection? And I know that they are very good people. This is not bashing them or anything. They're good people. They knew what they did, what they thought was best for your
Correct.
family, and they did their best with what they knew. Have you
Mm.
had a candid conversation with them and discussed how that lack of emotional connection has affected you as an adult and has affected your children in turn? You know?
No.
Okay.
No. I cannot. What can I say? I think the respect and the way there's such a big disparity
Mm-hmm.
uh, from me as a child of my father. I'm going to talk about my father
Mm-hmm.
and the way he brought us up. That for us, he was like a god.
Mm.
Nitagakai. In Kikuyu, we say gakai. It's like mini God. Like, we almost revered him so much. We were so scared of him.
Mm-hmm.
He was all knowing. You know, all those things that we say sometimes about God, it's like that's how we saw him, you know?
Okay.
And he's so far removed. He's the emotional attack, the emotional piece from my dad is so far removed. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because of him coming to America, I'm able to penetrate a little bit and say something, but
Mm.
you don't lay it out completely because there's so much respect for him. Now,
Okay.
with my mother, on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
my mom, because of the fact that she has spent a lot of time here with me and she has seen me and she has been in this country and we
Mm-hmm.
have worked together and we have developed communication with one another. I'm
Okay.
able to throw in a little bit of how I felt, how I grew up, and stuff like that. But she's also very far away, and sometimes she'll block it. My mother will block it. She will be like, "It's getting very dark. You know, I don't sleep. Don't." When she knows you are getting there, because she knows how you are going to twist everything and get there. If it's early in the morning, you can be able to tell her something. But when it's late at night and maybe that thing is burning in you at that particular time, you want to share it so that she can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
She throw in the fact that it's getting late at night. You know, I have problems sleeping. Then you are okay, mommy. I understand. This, that, that respect of these parents that you are
Mm-hmm.
not going to delve into those things with my
Mm-hmm.
children and me. Oh my God. They lay it out. When they decide to lay it out, they lay it out piece by piece. Whether you are going to get hurt, whether you are going to scream, whether you are going to find yourself so naked, it does not matter. But the
Mm-hmm.
relationship that I have with my parents, it's so far apart. The emotions, the connection is there for revering them as parents, but you cannot explain those things because they will not understand them or they will not empathize with you in the way that you want them to.
That we want, yes, and that's very important because in sharing it with them,
Mm,
you have to really think deep about why are you sharing it with them.
correct.
Are you willing and are you ready for the response, because the response might not be what you want or what you
Mm,
are hoping for. And plus
correct.
also, the person who hurt you cannot heal you
Correct.
unless they've done the work themselves, right? Unless they've,
Mm,
like for you now, you've done your work, right? You're doing your work or you've done your work. So yes,
doing
even though
the
you
work.
had your children,
Mm,
they're able to heal. You're able to heal together because you're doing the work, right?
mm,
So now
mm.
let's move now to your children. Have you
Yes.
had that discussion with your children and kind of apologize to them and explain to them where you are coming from, why you are not available at that time emotionally? And are you working through that? Have you talked about that?
We have had several discussions.
Mm-hmm.
Several discussions. Some
Mm-hmm.
of them, as I've told you, my children have told me, Mom, you really are not seeing you're not seeing what we're trying to tell you. They have seen, even though they are explaining to me how they felt, I cannot get to where they want me to be. You
Mm-hmm.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
Then at other times, recently we had a situation here where my firstborn daughter felt that during the time that I was going through my divorce,
Mm-hmm.
she stood for me. She's kind of stood in the gap for me, and she took care of me because I was so vulnerable. And she saw that I needed taking care of. I needed to be babysat. She took care of me. Then, unfortunately, when she was going through hard
Mm-hmm.
time or her period,
Oh,
when she was so vulnerable,
sorry, I lost you for a minute. So you're saying
mhm,
that your daughter said, she was talking to you about how she took care of you. So the roles were
yes,
reversed. So she was
yes,
parentified. So she became your parent. Okay.
she did. She became my parent. And then when the
Mm-hmm.
roles Then when I became strong, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I realized, and that is something that I looked at, I said, these people, they're even taking over my role as a mother. Now I felt, whoa, stop. I was like, this has got to stop because they now, it seemed to me that now they had taken kind of control of even the little ones and they wanted them. I'm like, no, now I'm strong. I can take care of my children on my own, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to tell them to stop. But the same firstborn who took care of me at that time
Mm-hmm.
took care of me in very good ways. We would go clubbing. Of course, some people would not agree that clubbing is a way of taking of you and your children going out. We would go
Mm-hmm.
clubbing, but they would take care of me. They would make sure I was okay. They would make sure I had drinks. They would make sure no man was coming there to bother me because they were taking care of me. Then also, they took care of me in the sense that they would listen to their siblings and they would kind of take that burden upon themselves. The two, the two older ones. They took she took care of me by taking me to Costa Rica and taking me to an all-paid trip. Like just giving me the time of my life just so that I could relax and I could feel better. Now, fast forward recently maybe it's about 2 years back or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
She
She did what?
she needed me.
She needed
She
you. Okay.
needed me to be there for her,
The support. Mm-hmm.
but I was not available. I
Mm.
was not available. I was not available mentally. I was not available emotionally. And I told her, I can't. I just can't. I can't do it. If I do it, it's going to be an unhealthy way of doing it. If I do it, it's going to be me telling you I can do it, but it's going to be so short lived. And then I'm going to be the same, if I may use the word, and it's not a good word, the same mean bitchy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you're not doing this the right way. Da, 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 da. You know what I'm saying? When you get angry and you start now reliving things somebody has done, negative things, and
Mm-hmm.
bringing them to the present. And she didn't need that. She needed me to just be, and I couldn't. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to leave. I can't do it. So that was a very painful thing for her. You see, I'm still taking care of myself. I'm still isolating myself. I still
Yes.
can't delve deep into things. I'm still like going in the shallow end. And
Mm-hmm.
when I start going to the deep end, I say, I'm going to drown. What? I jump
Mm-hmm.
out, say, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm still scared. But the good thing is if people would know I've been in therapy from 2014. I've been in,
Mm-hmm.
and you can imagine, for me, I tell myself the damage that has been done in a human being can span years.
Mm-hmm.
When we go for therapy, people expect, oh, when you go for 2, 3 years, 4 years, you better have healed. No, if you have trauma that is there from when you were an infant,
Yeah.
and doing that trauma might take the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I find myself, I'm not fun. Even though they come and we talk, there are still spaces where they feel mommy is just being stiff. Mommy is not giving way. Mommy is not opening herself. She's not laying herself completely. They have tried. We've had candid talks, but I still guard myself a lot. I still
Mm-hmm.
guard myself a lot.
Because healing is a process, being hurt all these years and operating from a defensive mode, so to speak. All these years you're operating from a point of your trauma and your heart for all these
Mm,
years. It's difficult to
correct.
change, and just, I wish it was as easy as just a flip
Mm,
of a switch, but it takes work.
yeah.
So I'm happy because you say that you and your children are working towards it. So are you helping your kids also to trauma that
Oh
you've caused
yes.
them?
Oh yes. Oh
Okay.
yes. We talk a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
recently we had a big meltdown in Oklahoma with my son, and that was a difficult moment because it was a very difficult moment because um they felt that I was not defending them. Mom, you don't know how to defend us. You don't know how to take care of us. You don't know how to guard us when we feel that we are being attacked. You don't know how to do that. And sometimes getting to that space is you yourself knowing being vulnerable. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Is opening up yourself completely so that you can be vulnerable for somebody else. But if you don't know how to do that, and all I've watched my eldest daughter like go back and forth with her dad, and all I could do at that time was sit down and just stare in shock. And when he seemed like he was asking me, look at what your daughter is doing. You're supposed to be speaking on my behalf, and I couldn't. It was like I was tongue-tied. It was like I was in a trance. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there are times when I know I'm supposed to be doing something different. There were times when I felt I was supposed to be defending my marriage, and I couldn't. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. It was like, okay, I've not been a very good person, so I think I should give some leeway. It was like I was judging. I had become judge and jury of myself.
Yes, you're justifying. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So we work towards it. We talk a lot, but there are still those gates which are still closed. We cry a lot. We can go down and stuff like that. But slowly by slowly, you can see that I'm understanding, especially my second. That has
Mm-hmm.
been biggest challenge. Slowly, but she is a person how you do it. You don't go what? With Wairimo, you can swim. You can go any direction with her. Like you can tell her, hey, I don't like this, and you can go any direction with her. With my second born, I have to be very, very gentle. Very gentle,
She's sensitive. Okay.
very sensitive. Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to
Mm-hmm.
go slowly, and then I come out. I listen, and then I come out because she can bite, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to get bit.
So you know what? It's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch the journey between, between you and your kids, and how things have evolved and how things are becoming better. But it's work, right? Would you say it's
It's a
easy?
lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and you have to be willing to listen. You have
Mm-hmm.
to be willing to put aside what you know and what you feel, because sometimes it doesn't work. Like my third born is will always tell me, hello, hello, mom, you're not listening. You're not
Mm-hmm.
listening. You have to listen. You have to listen. I'm trying to tell you this, and the other. So you have to now put what you thought, listen,
Mm-hmm.
then introduce what you think is the right way, but you have to do it tactically. You have to be tactical in doing
Mm-hmm.
that.
So you have seen firsthand how not only your family but culture has affected your emotional being. So what would you tell someone who is not emotionally available, or who says, oh, we grew up being spanked and you spank your children, or who ignores the emotional side of things, which I think is the most important side of things. I'd rather have someone who is emotionally intelligent, emotionally sound and stable, and who is not a genius, than to have a genius who is not emotionally intelligent and who is not emotionally sound. So what would you say, how important has it been for you to connect with your inner self, with your inner child, to connect with your emotions, and in turn to teach and nurture your children in that direction emotionally?
Oh,
You connecting
oh,
with your emotions and being vulnerable and being able to express your emotions and to listen and to be there, to be present.
it has given me a lot of peace. It
Mm,
has given me also, it has also made them understand me. When I'm able to sit down and tell them I'm not feeling well, my mind is not right now. We are not going to talk about this right now. Okay? We're going to do it later. And they accept that. It has made me have a way of communicating with them. We have a long way to go. The person that right now I find that I have difficulty with, because the two older ones are gone, so I'm dealing with these two younger ones, is my son. It has been, it is such a journey, because what happens is I look at myself and I tell myself, I was not raised, I don't know how to take care of boys, because
mm.
I did not grow up with a brother.
Oh,
So
you don't
when
have a brother. Okay.
I don't have any brothers. So when I
Mm-hmm.
come to him, I'm coming with a lot of, I want to be a great mom, but I also want to seemingly make him a great man. Great
Mm,
man. I don't know how to do that. I
mm-hmm.
have searched, I have been around looking for men that could come and maybe take the place of somebody who can emotionally connect with my son. Because even though the father is a very, very good provider and he is there for his children, there is an emotional lack of him to be able to communicate, especially with his son.
Mm,
Now, for me, I cannot be able to emotionally connect with my son. I always make mistakes. Always. I'm always overdoing things. I'm always being told I don't know how to communicate. I'm always, and because of that, I have to look for people who can emotionally get him. So, what happened previously before the divorce? My son was an extrovert. He was happy. He was outgoing. He was jovial. I don't know if it is because of the divorce. I'm not
mm-hmm.
so sure. But he started clamping up. He became
Mm,
an introvert. He was not playing with his friends. Barack has always been a child who, if he likes somebody, he likes one person at a time. He will give everything to that one person. He does not know how to love several people.
mm,
But I remember one time going with my son to the therapist. And when I went and sat down with the therapist, one of the questions that the therapist asked my son is, do you love your mother? And he said, no.
oh,
And
that must be hurtful. That must be very hurtful.
I was shocked. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, why? Because my mother is never there for me.
Mm,
She's either too busy,
mm,
she's either taking care of other people,
mm-hmm.
then they're always squabbling with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the person that takes care of me is my sister Shiko, who is my dad. He's the one who is right before him. I
Mm-hmm.
was so hurt. I
Mm,
didn't know how to process this. I sat
mm,
there and I felt so small. And even after that, I kept on saying, you don't love me. You don't love me. It was so painful
mm-hmm.
when you give somebody, because I was asking myself, I'm cooking for him. His clothes are clean. I'm there. You're thinking that's what he needs. But he needed me emotionally, and I was not there for him. It was so painful. Now, over time, that
Mm-hmm.
emotional piece has never worked that well. So, because of that, there are times when my son will get angry with me because I don't understand him. There was a time that I felt he
Mm-hmm.
was almost hit me, although he said he was not, but he looked like he was going to tackle me, and that made me
Mm-hmm.
very sad. Then because of these bouts of anger that sometimes will just come out of nowhere, I have been looking for a therapist to work with him. Everywhere that I went, and I think I told you this, Dolly, everywhere that I went, they kept on saying Barack was okay. Oh, your son is performing well in school. He's in sports. You people pray together. They would tell me what was okay with him, but there was no therapist. And when he went there, he would just sit like, and they could not connect with him. And he would make it hard for them to connect with him. Now, there was only one that had me and was up for the challenge. And this man has opened him up. Opening, it's like you are onion. You put on layers, on layers, on layers, on layers. Opening. See, he has opened my boy up. So he will ask me, how is it this week? What would you like us to work on? And I will let him know. And then the communication piece, I told him I'm having a problem because every time Barack prays, he will just say, God bless. He's done with the prayer. I want him to talk. I want him to not to be selfish. I want him to pray for other people. I want him to pray for other things. Then he said, okay, I'm going to work on that. And then now Barack prays. He prays for others. Okay. Then the other thing is when I ask him, how was school? Fine. How was school? Fine. I'm like, I told him that. He said, don't worry about it. It's okay. I got this. So he would go and tell Barack, give her just 2 words after the fine. Now Barack can come and give me a whole conversation about how he went to the gym, what was going on, how he felt. Oh, I'm just so great because he got it. The therapist got me. He was able to get inside of what I was talking about, and he was able to relate, to take this boy, those layers that he had built, because we build layers. He was able to take them out piece by piece by piece, and now I can communicate with my son. It's not an
Wow, that's
easy journey.
beautiful.
It's not finished. We are just starting.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So we are winding down in a few minutes, but isn't it amazing that even though you went through this as a child, like the
Mm,
emotional unavailability, you were
mm,
still surprised that your son said you're not available, even though you knew deep down you're not available, but you're like, I cooked for you, I provide for you. So you are doing the same exact thing that you went
mm.
through as a child.
Yeah.
Now I'll ask
Imagine.
one last question, but I'm really, really thankful to you, Anne, for being open and sharing how you are not emotionally vulnerable at one point and now you're totally emotionally vulnerable, and the difference it's making in your life, the difference it's making in your children, and not just your children, it's going to make a difference in your children's children and their children. It's going to be a generational thing. And
Mm,
sometimes when we say that there's a generational curse, it's just because we're not doing the work that we
correct.
need to do to correct the patterns and the behaviors that were passed down from our forefathers, our grandfathers, our great grandfathers. So that is very commendable that you were able to sit down and
Mm,
identify that, you know what, this is a pattern I want to break in my family. I
mm,
don't want my kids and their children's children to be that way. So that is very commendable. Now, the
mm,
last question I want to ask you is to do with your siblings. Do
mm.
you have these discussions with your siblings, or are you guys on totally different pages?
I think it depends.
Okay.
It depends on the sibling, on each sibling, because I
Okay.
have 5 sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one that I'm, it's so ironic. The one that I fought with the most,
Mm.
the one that follows me, she might be
Mm-hmm.
watching this one right now. The one that I fought with the most is the one that I am now most emotionally connected with.
Okay.
We may not always agree. We may
Yeah,
come,
and that's okay. Mm-hmm.
we may come, we may not agree, but
Mm-hmm.
we have a way of communicating. Now,
Oh,
number one, our eldest, I have the eldest sister. For me and her, I was always, what can I call myself? I always took care of her. I was
mm,
always a caregiver.
okay.
I always felt she had been dealt the wrong cards. And I
Mm,
also felt I was so much smarter than her. And I could always tell her, this is the way you're going to lie. This is where you're going, this is what you're going to say. This is what I always took care of her on that part. When people were mistreating her, I always stood up for her. I've
mm,
gotten beat for my sister. My stories are so many anyway. I've gotten beat for my sister, and yes. So I've always felt like a caregiver for our firstborn, because I'm the second born. Now the third born is the one we used to fight with, but right now we are more emotionally connected. Then the
mhm.
fourth born, we have a disconnect, and that disconnect happened when we were adults, but it also happened when we were growing up. There were some things that I did not like, so I'm not that close to her, and we don't relate that closely.
Emotionally.
Number
Oh,
five,
mhm,
Number five, there was a time when we were very tight, but we are not that tight, but we are getting there. That one
mm,
and me, we are very, very much alike. Number
mm,
five and me, we are very much alike. Number six, I do not know that well. So there's that disparity where I don't know my number six too well, you know,
mhm.
but I feel that I don't think I will ever know and understand her. So I leave that work for the others, the ones that can relate with her better. But
Okay.
number three, we are tight. Like we fight it, but we always come together and we kind of will see. Okay, I'm gonna see your part. You're gonna see my part. Number five, we are very much alike, and we fight. We fight here, and we fight to be the best version of ourselves for our parents.
Mm. Performance again, huh?
Yes, yes. But all of it for me and her is always for the betterment of our parents. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
Okay.
we are
Yes.
we are fighting emotionally, but we are fighting one battle, and it's always like nani mzuri, who is better than the
Yeah.
other one. And, it's like,
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
we do it with that. But it's always geared towards making our parents pleased, making our parents happy, making our parents, you know, have the best, and just yeah, we have a good camaraderie in that way.
Okay. So
Yes.
now to end, okay, again, I just want to thank you, Anne, so, so much. So, so much
I
for,
want. Can I give you your flowers?
oh, okay. Okay.
Sometimes you come in life, there's always another side of the story, but I want to give Dolly her flowers.
Okay.
So I met Dolly. And let me tell you, maybe people don't talk about it, but I found Dolly a person that I could relate with, because even for me, even for Dolly saying that I'm real, I find her real. I find her authentic, and that means a lot to me. You're real, you're authentic. Now, the thing that stands out most for me is that sometimes I used to have issues. And I'm the kind of person, if I have an issue, I'm not going to keep quiet with my issue, but I'm going to say it out so that I can. I always feel this is the way I look at life. When you sow seeds and you sow them on fertile ground, it does not matter who is going to help you. But I always believe, do not ever keep quiet with what is going on in your life. Now, Dolly, when I was going
Mm-hmm.
through my divorce, a lot of people came here and everybody was helping in one way or the other. What my sister Dolly did is she told me, Anne, I know I've not been able to come, but I want you to give me one day. One day, she came here, she did my pedicure, she did my nails, she took care of my feet. And then the whole room, my room was messy. She came and she organize. She helped me to organize my room. And for me, that was so, it was so different. It was so unique. It was so authentic. And Dolly, I have given you your flowers.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for looking for, sometimes people are so busy. Let me cook for you. Let me wash the dishes. But she chose those things that people did not see. And she did that. So I thank you for that. And I will remember, I will always be grateful for that. And may God bless you. And may He bless your podcast. May He bless the work of your hands. May He
Thank
bless
you.
everything that you do. May He bless your family. May He bless you and bless you so much. Thank you, Dolly.
Thank you. Oh, I was not expecting that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What is your parting shot? Tell me what would you like to tell parents out there, mothers out there, especially of Kenyan descent or African descent, because our cultures tend to be similar. What is your parting shot?
Well, my parting shot is this: be open to change. Be open to change. The way we were brought up with by our parents, the way those things that we know, those things that we call normal, those are not the things that are going on right here. You will find that your child is smoking weed. Don't chastise that child. Don't throw that child out. Learn. Even you get to know. Talk to this child about weed. They know the negative aspects of weed. Talk to them about how it is going to affect them lovingly, in a loving way. Oh, yes. Talk to your children. Tell them about the effects of how it's going to affect them. You know, but embrace your children, embrace their mistakes. I embrace my children's mistakes. Of course, sometimes I'm going to get angry, but I embrace their mistakes because somebody else embraced my mistakes. I love
Mm-hmm.
my mistakes, but be open. Be open. Let your child come to you when they have an issue. My children, I am blessed because my children come to me with the most absurd issues ever. But because they know that I'm not going to be judgmental, that I'm not going to keep on judging them and showing them that they're not supposed to be doing, they are beneath themselves because they're doing those things. I allow them to tell me what they're telling me. Oh, this is happening in my life. Oh, I went here. Oh, I did this. Oh, this is happening. I open my ears. And you know what it does? When you, as a parent, decide to be open to your child, first of all, it gives them a space where they can be able to talk to you. And then also, for you as
A
a
safe
parent,
space.
it
Mm-hmm.
helps you to be able to teach everything you know, Dolly. Everything every parent knows is not for you to keep, it's for you to educate, it's for you to give to
Mm-hmm.
others. And be generous about giving information to people. Don't keep on holding that information and holding it. It's not for you to keep, it's for you to give. When you learn, then give. Give because
Mm-hmm.
other people need to learn. That's my
Thank you
parting shot.
so much, and it was just wonderful. We could go on and on and on.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much.
We
Thank
can.
you so much for being open, for being vulnerable,
You
because
for
it's in
invite.
sharing that we are able to edify each other and to
Correct.
help each other grow and to make the changes we need to make in our lives and to become better people. So I want to
Correct.
thank you so much, Anne. And I know I'll have you in this podcast again another time.
God
But for
bless you
now,
so.
everyone, thank you so much for being with us. And please leave your comments. Don't just watch, and because sometimes I see there's so many views, but nobody says anything. Leave your comments. Let us know how
Yes.
this has helped
Yes.
you, how it has not helped you, what you liked, what you didn't like. But for now, I want to say thank you so much, Anne, and goodbye to our
Thank you
viewers.
so much. God bless
Bye.
you.